Two notes of dissent. The first one about something Natalie said. Look, I think calling the change, saying this is your alternative or else it's the law of the jungle, is a kind of scaremongering tactic. It isn't the law of the jungle. I mean, it's from a very cozy room, everything looks like the law of the jungle. Out there, it's a more competitive world. It's a world where more countries have the freedom and the choice to pursue their interests. I mean, if that's the jungle, I'll take my chances on it. Because I'd rather be in that jungle than be in the pen which a few people control.
Or the garden.
Or the garden.
Yes, or the garden.
The walled gardens. Yeah. So that's one dissent. I like dissent.
The second dissent, look, I take John's point, but I think he's underestimating Washington. I think you'll get enough things in those 2 years or less which will profoundly change the world. So the 50 states may carry on with their model, but because the President of the United States holds such exceptional power and the country has so much influence, that within this period, in fact, I would predict much earlier, that you're going to get policies which will reshape the international order as we have got used to. So I would not, I'm saying this in a very, I'm not saying it's good or bad, I'm just predicting what is to come, and something big I think is coming at us. My third point is, where I agree with him, is look, I do think around the world, politics and politicians have generally got discredited. I think there's a loss of trust. I would again argue we are a bit of an exception. It'll be very tough today in a really democratic society for anybody to get 3 continuous terms, which is what has happened in India, but we are an outlier in this respect. But it's not just politics which has got discredited. I think in a way diplomacy has got discredited. The international economy has got discredited. The kind of model which we have touted as being universally good is seen by many people as being built on their jobs, which were taken away from them. In India, for example, if you look at small, and medium producers, I mean, they are very angered at the kind of dumping of goods which is taking place in the Indian market. We all know from where. So I think we are dealing today with a much more disillusioned, unhappy world, which is ready for change, which says that, look, I don't believe all that non-law of jungle stuff which I've been hearing for so many years. I'm now prepared to take my chances in whatever lies out there, because I think it'll definitely be better than what I have today.
And just a quick one, democracy itself. And since you mentioned democracy in your intervention, are we now reaching a stage that we are perpetually polarized democratic societies, which means unless our side wins, democracy is not good? Have we reached that stage that unless your team wins, democracy is bad? We see that in the US, we see that in India to some extent, we see that in different parts, that unless who you vote for wins, the elections are not good.
Well, sorry, I know.
I'm coming to Ukraine very soon.
No, but look, I'll put it to you this way. I know people will say that. But if by the next election they're not saying it, democracy is fine. They will say it in the aftermath of a loss. That, okay, the system wasn't good, that's why I didn't win. But if they gear up for the next election, I think we are underestimating the strength, the power and the habit of democracy. And actually the attachment which people have to the exercise of individual choices. I think we are too quick to dismiss it because somewhere politics has not gone the way some people would like it to go.
Alexander.
Yeah, I think on democracy, our misconception is sort of linked to this whole end of history thesis of Fukuyama, which I firmly believed in myself, that all nation states of the world, 200 of them, would revert to a combination of liberal democracy, social market economy,
Only an
and
American
globalism.
could have believed that.
Exactly. Well, no, I'm a Finn. I'm a Finn.
I know,
but I think but this is again, we come, but I mean, again, that is not my point. My point is that the fallacy and the mistake that people like myself made at the time was to think of democracy as an end state or something static. Democracy is never that. It's always messy and complicated. The thing that makes me believe in democracy, apart from free speech, open society, institutions, rule of law, protection of minorities, human rights and fundamental rights, is a self-correcting mechanism that democracy has, because autocracies don't have that. Now then we have to ask ourselves the question, what do we need to avoid getting into this cycle where democratic change is basically constant every 2 years or every 4 years? I think what has happened is that democracy has not adapted to technology. Democracy originally, as crafted, say, by John Locke and his likes, was supposed to be slow, messy, and compromise-seeking. But now we have a new instrument that has come into play, which is technology. In the beginning, many of us thought that technology was going to work only for good, and everyone will be liberated to free speech and the rest of it. But now we have suddenly seen that, as a matter of fact, technology doesn't necessarily adapt to democracy. So I remember, I'm not that old, but in the olden days, politicians had about 3 months to answer to the media. Then they had about 3 weeks. Then suddenly it was 3 days. Then it was 3 hours. Then it was 3 minutes. Then it was 30 seconds. And now, unless you put out something on X within 3 seconds that something has happened. And then we get into this cacophony of information. And I don't think democracy has yet understood that information is not wisdom. So that's what I'm trying to say, that democracy needs to adapt all the time. And we have to understand that right now it's in a certain direction which some people don't like. But at some stage it'll adapt back.
I think they're all making the case for stable monarchies.
Yeah. Well, philosopher kings. Yeah.
Eventually, you will agree with her.
Exactly.
I will agree, but can I also?
And I will respect your people's vote on that.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, Natalie.
Yeah, I just wanted to come back to the jungle business. I think we would all agree.
Natalie, I also want you to give me a quick prognosis from where you're sitting on what could be the future of the Ukraine.
Okay. Quick. But on the jungle business, I think we would all agree that it is right that the rules of the road are determined by not just one power. And that different players should be able to shape the system and use the system for their benefit. I think there's there would probably be broad agreement on this. I think where we get into jungle territory, and I think we would also all agree that, including Minister Jaishankar, that it would not be such a good thing if there are no such rules at all. And that if me and President Stubb sign a contract, I assume that there is some sort of institution out there that will make sure that he respects the contract, and that if he doesn't, I can sue him, right? Now, if those institutions are destroyed, if those rules are eroded, if nothing does anything about them, then we are in that jungle territory where if you are down in the food chain, you're in big trouble. And surely that is a situation that no one really wants to be in, because indeed, if you are down that food chain, you're in immediate trouble. But presumably, even if you're up there, sooner or later, you are going to run into trouble. So to me, it should be a conversation about those rules, about what we think about them, and especially about how we collectively are going to do something in order to ensure their respect, which gets me to Ukraine. Who knows what's going to happen? I think we basically are into two possible scenarios here. Scenario number one, so I would tend to exclude a peace agreement scenario. I think what at most we can think might happen is a scenario in which there is some sort of truce, and then the question, and it becomes a very European discussion about what we can do to ensure that that truce becomes more or less sustainable. And this is where we get into conversations about defense, both European defense more broadly, but also continuing military support for Ukraine, deterrence troops. I'm reluctant to define them as peacekeepers because I don't really think there is going to be a peace to keep. Anyway, so that's sort of one scenario. Then you have a second scenario in which negotiations begin, and they continue, and they continue, and they continue. And in the meantime, war continues and continues and continues. And in that scenario, which actually I think is more likely than the first scenario, what I don't know, but I'd love to hear Ambassador Huntsman's sort of views on this, what would Donald Trump do? Would he basically just kind of feel slighted and get annoyed and double down magically in supporting Ukraine? Or, I fear, get bored and look for his Nobel Peace Prize elsewhere?